And now, the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
It's interesting that you should say that because I don't even know which one I prefer when they pretend, like when they don't talk about it or when they do, you know?
Yeah, I don't need it right now.
Yeah, well, especially not for this podcast.
Right, exactly. We're a fairly
journey with us through a cold open to the world of Odyssey.
We're a pretty focused show.
Yeah.
At the end of it, which is bizarre.
Considering both of us are the ones making it.
We're not focused people. And we do get off on tangents, but it's not a hangout show, really.
Yeah. That's the Andrew Sabo podcast.
Yeah, go listen.
Or don't.
New episode coming never.
Hey, maybe. I don't know. I mean, now's the time.
Hi, this is Nathan. We're just about to have a time of humor, analysis, and excitement. Would you like to join us? Then get ready, because you never know what'll happen when you listen to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
What does Tom Riley look like?
What?
What does Tom Riley look like?
Oh,
he's big.
Yeah, alright. You're doing a bit.
I won't continue. It's fine.
I'm sorry. Bits don't land quite as well over the internet, like when we're not in person.
Well, I also assume that you are as biblically devoted to Pulp Fiction as I am.
Hello and welcome to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod. I'm Dylan Weaver.
I'm Andrew Sabo.
And we're back here to talk about episode 287 of Adventures in Odyssey, Tom for Mayor, Part 2.
Still in quarantine, friends.
Yep.
This episode is so good.
We apparently can't make it through an episode without talking about that.
Well, it seems particularly relevant.
I mean, everyone's in the same boat.
That's fair. But, I mean, I guess as a podcast that's typically recorded in person, you know what I mean?
Yeah, but they know that now.
Okay, that's fair.
Last episode was our chance to say, hey, going forward, we're not recording in person. And then we just get to, like, acknowledge it again once we are.
Ah, okay, I like that.
So maybe I cut this out, maybe I don't, but we won't be acknowledging it again after this.
Yeah, okay, that checks out.
Just because I'm tired of it.
That's fair.
All right. So, Tom for Mayor, Part 2. It first aired November 5th of 1994. I realized as I was writing that down that this is specifically an election-timed episode.
Yeah, it's...
They put these out the end of October, beginning of November of 94, which wasn't like a major election year, but was still an election year.
I was thinking about that while I was listening to it. I was wondering if that was the case. Yep. I am very curious as to what this episode provides as far as Odyssey's insight into politics.
Yeah, one of the reasons we delayed this recording a bit is because I was taking furious notes trying to keep up with everything that was being said during the debate.
Yeah.
And we'll cross that road when we get to it, but it's not a lot.
No, yeah, this episode 1, I mean, I want to say off the bat, I do love it. I think it's great. It starts with a cold open, like a Now Adventures in Odyssey, and then we get, what is it? Eugene and... Heck, what's the kid's name?
It's Sam.
Sorry.
Are we doing this now, Andrew?
Oh, shoot, you're right. I'm so sorry. I got quarantine brain. How does this podcast work? Okay, so we did the intro.
So we did the intro.
Then we did the air
episode. Date. I talked about the air date. Now I usually talk about where it is on the album, which is that it is episode 2 on album 22, The Changing Times. It was written and directed by Paul McCusker, and it has the same cast as the previous episode.
There you go.
To, like, a degree that's kind of funny, where, like, they have like, they have Brian Dern and Jack here for the debate in a move that very much just seemed like, well, we already had those actors there, so, like, this is how we're going to use them.
Oh, yeah, this is definitely, like, they rented them out for a weekend situation. They're like, we're just going to do this. Might as well.
Yeah. So that's that. That's the context portion of the show.
Well, that being said, we get to the plot synopsis of the episode, correct? Yes?
Yeah, we can talk about
the colorful commentary that only we can provide. And the episode begins, as previously and overzealously mentioned by myself, with Eugene and Sam, right?
Yes, sir.
And this is them meeting with... No, this is them in the woods, isn't it?
Nope.
No, this is them meeting with Tom Riley.
Kind of, but no.
You just take the lead here.
So they this is Sam and Eugene are at the Little Theater, which has been temporarily set up as Tom's headquarters. Mm-hmm. Eugene is basically just doing a recap of last episode, but for Sam's documentary that he's filming. There's this little back and forth where Sam's trying to get Eugene to be less flowery, to not use his big words, to talk like a human being. And that just recaps everything. Then Eugene says, how about we go to some dramatic music, Sam? And the theme song starts.
Yeah, that caught me because I thought he was going to be like a dramatic ukulele solo or something like that. That's literally what I was like, oh, dramatic music? Okay. And then it cuts to the intro. And I was like, whoa.
I was thrown out by it's Chris's and now Adventures in Odyssey with no music.
Yeah.
Right off the bat. And I was like, oh, shoot, we're not even doing, like, anything. Mm-hmm. Because when we have a cold open episode, it usually starts on the action, not on that intro. And I was like, okay, they must have been really crunched for time and just did no intro. And then we get this weird little recap. And then Eugene says, start dramatic music. And I'm like, oh, no, is this going to be the theme song? And then it comes in and we get a Chris intro in that. And then also a one of their little audio montages.
Yeah, we get the teaser clips and stuff.
Yep. Which is all about Tom and his makeup.
Yeah. Feelings
which we will
about
get
that.
And then so the body of the episode once again begins with Glossman showing up at Tom's door.
We love it.
He arrives and knocks on the door, and Tom answers, and he just kind of is there to gloat.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tom explains that he's going to get an independent expert in. And Tom's got this whole, like, I've done nothing wrong air about him and is really pushing back against Glossman. And...
Oh, wait, we should hold up real quick. Is it established before the intro that the debate is going to be at the Little Theater?
The debate is not at the Little Theater.
Oh, where is it at?
It is at
it's at Town Hall, isn't it? Yeah.
Yep.
Because there's a comment about the video and everything. Yes.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. So yeah, Tom's attitude here is very interesting. I don't know, like, so here's the thing. Yes, private statistics work, kind of, but Glossman is from the government.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, how can his statistics stand up to literally the state government?
Right. So the problem here is that Tom, like, we as the audience know that Glossman has tampered with the evidence.
Yes.
Tom does not know this, but is still operating under that assumption, and I really dislike that.
It's just not a good look for him.
It's not. He's coming across as though he already knows that Glossman's been tampering, and, like, that's going to...
Yeah, it's very much Wit being, like, sinister for the sake of being sinister in Novacom.
Sinister? Cynical.
Cynical, sorry. But there's I think that there's a direct quote that is, like, taken later that Wit says in Novacom, too. Like, you can fool some people some of the time, but you can't fool all the people all the time.
Yes.
I'm pretty sure Wit says that, doesn't he?
I believe that is Wit.
Yeah, but Tom says it in this episode.
Oh, does he?
Yeah.
Oh.
Because Wit's not here.
Right. Okay, so maybe it is just Tom in this episode. I don't know. That just sounded like a familiar quote. I don't actually have a reference for that.
Yeah, maybe Tom says it later for the Novacom thing, but it's definitely used later.
I will take you on your word for that one. I can't back that up.
Yay. I have been taken for my word.
Yep. While I cleverly distance myself from it so that blowback cannot be directed at me.
Exactly. Tweet at me personally. It's very lonely.
But it is this frustration that Tom is not, like, I get it. Tom's had some bad stuff go down with Glossman in the past.
Mm-hmm.
But he's never, even more, like, the thing with Blackgaard is that we've seen Blackgaard do bad stuff, but then legally he can distance himself from it, but everyone in the town knows that he did something bad. Glossman never gets to that point.
No.
He has done bad things we know as the audience, but none of the town has a direct link between Glossman and bad stuff being done.
Yeah.
It's all just assumption. If you are to take Glossman at his own word and at the direct evidence we see, he truly hasn't done anything wrong.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the part that's, like, I don't know. I mean, you know, obviously Glossman is Tom's foil in that sense, and it's frustrating for Tom to be so resistant. I mean, obviously, you know, he does end up being right, but the truth of the matter is he has no reason to be as cynical as he is.
He has no reason to believe he is right at this point other than, like, a gut feeling, which I think is stupid.
And I get that he's running for the people and, like, he's a down-to-earth guy, but, like, wouldn't he want to get as buddy-buddy with up in politics as possible? Like,
no, he wouldn't.
Not
Tom.
I know, not Tom, but, like, anybody else would. They'd be like, oh, well.
Right, but that's why he's the better candidate, Andrew.
Exactly. Yeah, boy.
Yeah.
I have feelings.
Yeah. So then the independent expert shows up, and it's Eugene.
Yep.
And Glossman literally, like, you can hear him smirking through the audio.
He's like, oh. Well, I can't think of anybody better for, you know, to run this independent study than Eugene Meltzner. Which
Our resident genius,
and also little does he know that he is good at everything. Right,
he can wire up the building correctly if he has the right transistors.
Yeah,
and he can both conduct a study, an environmental study, and catch someone planting evidence. And apparently he can run somewhat quickly as well. Who
must be able to.
I picture Eugene as someone who wears ankle weights.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And he has, like, one of the shake weights at home. He's
Absolutely.
like, oh, or maybe he got a Bowflex. He definitely bought some as seen on TV fitness equipment.
You don't think he compared all of the different things and made his decision in a way that is befitting a Christian?
Oh, no, he definitely did, but what he was choosing from was as seen on TV fitness equipment. There's a lot of it to go around, man.
That's fair.
He's an educated consumer.
So we then cut to Bart on the radio.
Yep.
He's being interviewed about, I don't know, just his mayoral candidacy.
Yeah.
And the whole thing comes up with Glossman and and all of this stuff, and the interviewer kind of is like, hey, did you have anything to do with this? And Bart says that he didn't, but he would have planted evidence if he had thought of that.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
This is a problem throughout this whole episode. It was in last episode, but it wasn't as clear. But there's clearly a feeling of, and it's a show for kids, maybe that's the reason for all of this. But Bart is a bad candidate. He's not a candidate with ideas different than Tom's. He is a candidate without any merit.
Exactly, and that's the thing that I found so interesting is that, like, even when he is smearing Tom, like, that's pretty much his only strategy is not saying that he's going to do anything great, but just by being like, well, Tom contaminates apples and therefore he shouldn't be mayor. Like, that is his only argument.
Yeah, it's frustrating. Like, I wish that they had given depth to this where both sides have a point, but Tom's is the point that is right.
Exactly.
But instead, they just flattened Bart to be, flattened Bart. Bart's always been this thin.
Yeah.
But to just be this one-dimensional character who's like, he's just doing, like...
He's doing it for the gram.
Yeah, I genuinely don't know what Bart's motivations in running for office are, other than, like, TV airtime.
Yeah.
Like, it's unfortunate, because I would love to see Tom have to debate against a competent candidate. Like, if it was him versus Glossman, it would be really interesting to hear both sides of their thing, but instead it's him versus, like, a monkey.
And that's the
No
thing, where it's
offense
like,
to
what
monkeys.
makes Tom good? Like, Tom is objectively good as a mayor because of X, Y, and Z reasons, and he doesn't really get to show them at all because he's not ever compared to anything worth comparing to. And the funny part about the show is that, like, at least in my head, I always thought that, like, Tom was kind of a come-from-behind victor in this situation. But the truth of the matter is, Tom has pretty much been the only legitimate candidate straight out, like, the whole time.
Yep. As evidenced at the end when he wins the mayoral position without a vote. So look forward to that later this episode. We go from, we do this hilarious, in quotes, transition, where Bart talks about, like, having sure footing.
Yeah.
And then Eugene falls into a stream. And that's the transition.
Yeah, it's so good because, like, and then it cuts to what's like him editing it out for Sam, or Sam wanting to edit it out.
He falls into the stream and asks Sam if Sam will edit that out.
Yeah.
And Sam says, no, that would be lying.
Yeah. Like, it's gotta be, artistic integrity and whatnot. It's so, the whole Sam part of this whole episode is so strange to me. Like, why is he there?
Because the children need someone to latch onto, and also exposition?
I guess, yeah. But, like, do the children really latch on to Sam?
I don't know.
Like, as a child, I definitely latched on more to Tom and to Eugene within this argument than I ever did for Sam. Sam's he's just there. Like,
yeah, no, absolutely.
He's kind of comic relief in the sense that, like, yeah.
Yep. Yeah. He's our fish out of water for the episode.
Although, I mean, it does become incredibly, prevalent that he is there because obviously he gets
right. Everything hinges on the fact that we have someone filming all this.
Yeah. Yeah.
But, okay, and then he and Eugene and Sam talk about this a little bit more about their, like, going upstream to where the Edgebiter plant used to be. And Eugene's talking to Sam about, like, how important all this is, and says, like, I'm afraid he'll lose more than the elections, Sam.
Yeah.
Which just reminds me of there's an episode, and I don't remember which one. I feel like there's been more than one that's been like a I think it's the Rodney Through the Skylight episode.
Oh, yeah.
And it goes out on this line of, "We lost more than a court case today. We lost some of our innocence, and that is the real victim." And
yeah. No, that's the case of the secret room, isn't it?
Nah, I don't.
He says something like that during the case of the secret room.
He does say something about that during the case of the secret room as well, but it's not that one.
It's not that explicit.
No, I mean, it is that explicit, but it's not the thing I literally just said.
That's fair.
I was quoting the Skylight episode.
The Skylight episode. It's Christian name.
Yeah. So anyways, Eugene's afraid that he'll lose more than the election, which is... Yeah, This whole episode hinges on the idea that Tom will lose the election if his pond is contaminated.
Yeah.
But there is no evidence to support that.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, if his stuff is contaminated, he will get, like, even in the worst case scenario for him, he gets slapped with some sort of fine. He has to undergo certain, like, business precautions. He has to address, probably the Board of Agriculture or whatever, and get checked by the people and make sure it's all good, and then stuff goes back to normal. That's literally it.
I think it's like, it's the really hard thing I have with this episode is that it's not a direct conflict in any way.
No, there really isn't.
It's the direct conflicts would be Tom versus Bart and Glossman versus Tom's business. Mm-hmm. But instead, we have Tom's candidacy versus Glossman's investigation. And the idea is that if Glossman's investigation happens, Tom won't become mayor.
Yeah.
But that... I don't know how that adds up. Tom, even before it's revealed that he's going... Like, that everything went okay... He is getting applause, and Bart is getting laughter.
Yeah.
So even if it comes back and it's like, no, Tom legitimately did poison this town. None of you have seen the effects of that, but, like, it happened. They're still voting Tom.
Oh, yeah. Well, and, like, Tom can totally play the, well, it wasn't intentional, and, like, I wasn't aware of what was happening.
Right.
Like,
right.
You can totally play that card. I mean,
yeah.
Politicians do that all the time, and then you're fine. Like like I said, you deal with the minor consequences, and you still, like, it's not like the race is super close and he's hanging on by a thread, and this is going to make or break his candidacy. Is
correct.
This little thing that's going to push him under? Like, no, he's running against a monkey who literally cannot string a cohesive speech together, has no platform, and
falls back on song lyrics.
Yeah, falls back on song lyrics, and is just like, he's not legitimate, and there's no perception that anybody thinks that he is. Right. But this whole episode is around the crux that so much bad is going to happen if this environmental study goes through, and it is negative.
Yeah, I wish that we could have, like, I'm okay with the storyline of Glossman is trying to shut down Tom's farm, and, like, Tom is, like, fighting to keep his business afloat.
Yeah.
I'm also okay with Tom goes up against a component in a mayoral race, but the fact that they kind of took both halves of that and made it into this conflict, it doesn't add up, and it was frustrating to me.
Yeah, no, definitely. I definitely sympathize with that. And it's something that I really only picked up now. Like, I didn't really think about that as a child much. Like I said, like, for me as a child, for some reason, I always thought that Tom was a come-from-behind mayor. And maybe because his campaign ads weren't so aggressive, and his down-to-earth style just makes him less assuming. But the truth of the matter is, when it comes down to who's going to vote for who, I mean, there would be no belief that any majority would vote for Bart at any point, really.
Yep. I fully agree with that. So we then go to probably my favorite scene of this episode, and by that I mean I hate it, which is this greatly, completely non-cliche scene that we are seeing here for the first time ever, in which a man complains about needing to wear makeup to go on television.
Yeah, it's quite bad. I mean, basically a synopsis of the scene. Connie's putting makeup on him so he doesn't look washed up under the lights, and people are making jokes, and Tom feels bad about it. And then there's a joke about, like, Bernard comes in and he's like, there's Champ or whatever, and he's like, for which girls team? And I'm like, okay, not cool. Can't say that. Women's sports are just as legitimate as men's sports, even if they are, in my opinion, less interesting to watch. It's so upsetting. Odyssey, like, I get that it's a trope and that's a thing and your audience is conservative, but, like, really, this is where you're gonna insert some comedic whatever. You're gonna dedicate, like, at least 40 seconds of airtime to just, bad-mouthing guys wearing makeup, even though it's, like, a necessity. And, like, even though Tom is kind of seen as being mildly ridiculous, like, it's kind of validated by Sam and Bernard by saying, like, oh, you look like my Aunt Agatha. Like, everybody's got an Aunt Agatha. And,
yes. Three people in this episode refer to their Aunt Agathas. It's Tom, it's Bernard, and it's Bart.
Yep. Which, Agatha Rathbone has its own credit on the AIO Wiki, and I'm just going to see if she's mentioned anywhere else.
Yeah, it's literally, she's never appeared in an episode. She's mentioned
twice
mentioned
in the Living Bart, Nativity.
Yep, as Bart saying, you look like my Aunt Agatha.
Yeah. Oh, boy.
I don't know why that got a page on the wiki, but, whatever.
I'm glad it did.
If I'm fine with that being there, but then we also need a Agatha Walton and Agatha Riley page.
Yeah.
So get on that. No, but
you got time, Lee.
Don't spend your time on that.
Please don't. Please don't.
Bad idea. But
tell someone you love them.
The thing, circling back a bit here, Andrew, the other thing to recognize is that this is an episode from 94. Yeah. And while I do feel like this same joke would be made on Odyssey today, at least at the time, it was not a conservative joke. It was just a joke.
Oh, yeah, no, for sure. This is definitely a joke that could have been on, like, Seinfeld or something like that.
Right. Absolutely. And that's, So fun. And so the other thing is that I don't like about this scene is that it also is implied that Connie isn't good at doing the makeup.
Yeah.
Because everyone's coming on and, like, freaking out. So it's like, on one hand, Tom does need makeup to go on air. On the other hand, it seems like Connie's doing a bad job, and I'm like, why can't we just give Connie one thing?
Yeah.
Can she just be okay at makeup? Can that just be okay this once? Does she have to always be does she have to always be incompetent? Can we just have a nice thing for Connie?
No, we can't have that. She must be the butt of every joke.
Yeah, that truly feels like how it is in these early Odyssey episodes, and I'm gonna keep harping on it because it makes me sad.
Well, the thing is, it doesn't get less upsetting.
Right. It's still upsetting every time. It's also frustrating knowing, like, we've covered Novacom, and I didn't have all of these complaints then, though I had other complaints.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just, there's always going to be something, isn't there?
That's the whole point of the show.
Yeah.
Well, part of it.
Yeah, it is. So we then cut to the debate.
Mm-hmm.
Jack is moderating.
Because they both mutually decided that? Or did did Tom pick Jack and, what's his name?
Bernard just said sure. Bart just said sure.
Yeah, and he just said sure. But there's also Brian Dern's there.
Yes, Brian Dern is there reading the questions.
Yeah. Hey, wait, this is getting good.
Yeah, and the big note from my favorite book about this scene is that both Walker Edmonston voicing Tom and Bart in this scene didn't do 2 takes. He changed his voice live in studio, Rick and Morty style.
That's awesome.
Which was so cool to hear.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, because your natural assumption when listening to this sort of thing is like they did 1 take with the stand-in, and then they did a take the other way with the stand-in, and then they merged it together in editing. But nope, he is switching voices live, and I love it.
Yeah, and I feel like he did a good job.
Yeah, well, apparently the people in the studio were having a hard time keeping it together because it was so funny, and his facial mannerisms changed when he was doing the switch too.
Oh,
and it was
sure.
Just like, I love actors doing good.
Yeah, well, and especially I think voice acting is so unique in that respect. Like, I've seen stuff about like people that worked with Robin Williams when he was doing voice acting stuff, and like them just losing it in the studio because of how like emotive he is in his voice and also in his like mannerisms, like I think that's so cool. I wish I could be a good voice actor. Maybe someday.
Who knows? Can we get a different voice here, Andrew?
Welcome back to the Wad Fam Chalk Pod.
Nope. Thumbs down.
Deeper voice.
Try again.
Crying Brian Dern.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's just gonna be good imitations.
Yeah, that's about it. So this whole debate, right? Obviously, we have a lot of feelings.
Yeah. So the first bit is actually pretty short. Mm-hmm. It's Brian Dern comes on and is like, "Hey, how do you feel about government funding for special interest groups?" And Bart goes on this rant about baseball cards and how the government should fund that. And then we cut away from the scene without hearing Tom's response.
Yep. Yeah.
Because
and like, isn't the audience laughing?
Yeah.
That's so. I'm just like, that was when it really hit me, like during this re-listen of just being like, wow, nobody takes Bart seriously. Like, there isn't even joke. like a diehard Bart supporter who's just like being like, yeah, baseball cards.
Yeah. And that must be because they didn't have the money for Rodney in this episode.
That must be it. Oh man, that would have been so good if he just stands up and starts like cheering and that's my pop. Don't call me pop.
Yeah, there's Andrew's voice acting.
Oh boy.
So yeah, then we leave. Where Eugene can't find evidence of the spill, and then him and Stam stumble over Furter and Ernest, adding chemicals to the stream.
Bert and Ernie.
And they do their villain monologue about all the bad stuff that they're doing on camera.
Yep.
So that we have evidence later.
Yep. And then they get caught.
Why do they get caught, Andrew?
I don't really know. Why do they get caught, Dylan?
Because Connie sneaks up on Sam and Eugene and makes them scream.
Yep.
And then there's noise, so Furter and Ernest catch them.
That's right. Connie's the worst.
That's
who I'm voting for in this election. I'm just gonna write in Connie is the worst.
Yeah.
Thank goodness she's written this way, because good heavens.
Imagine if we had, like, a well-written female character in 94. How tragic that would be.
Yeah.
So...
yeah. And, like, I don't know if it's a conscious thing, but, like, couldn't Eugene just have fallen in the stream again?
I don't think it's a conscious thing. I think it's we don't have any female writers in the room, so we're just writing comedy and we're not thinking about who gets it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fair.
But yeah, so the EDA catches them. Is like, hey, we need that tape. And Eugene's like, sure, I'll give it to you if you can catch me, and then runs.
Oh, that's before he tells them to like come out with their hands up, and then the other agents like, we don't have guns.
We don't have guns.
And they're like, they don't know that.
And I'm like, but we can hear this, so maybe they do now?
Yeah. We don't know. We really don't know.
Yeah. So they yell stop in the name of the environment.
Yep. Gotta love that.
And they run to their car, and then Connie isn't actually in the car.
Mm-hmm.
She gets left behind.
Mm-hmm.
Trademark?
Yeah. Trademark for sure. Yeah, she gone. Maybe she drove herself, perhaps.
She did drive herself, but it's just this weird thing of like she gets left outside of the car going like, "Hey, what's going on?" right along with the bad guys.
Yeah. Well, she is a woman.
Yeah. And now we go to this is where my notes really kick up, because this is where like the proper, in quotes, debating is happening.
In quotes. Heavily in quotes.
There's not really a proper debate, guys.
No, it's just two people talking, and Tom's trying to abide by like the rules of the debate, and Bart's just literally jumping on top of him like mid-sentence. And if that's
he's
an intentional
literally
trope
jumping
about
on top.
debates,
Tom gets tackled here.
Yeah, Tom is bodied. And like I get that that's how debates work sometimes, but like I've watched a lot of like Republican and Democratic primary debates where it's supposed to be like an absolute, cage fight, and they don't do that.
No, they do not. This is very amateur and just goes further to cement Bart as an invalid candidate.
Yep. And nobody thinks that he is. Like, you can tell the audience is just like laughing at him like, this guy. And Bart is so convinced that like, I'm saying things that are worth saying. It's just, it's exhausting.
Yeah. Yep. So I'm going to try and play-by-play it, and you just jump in with your color commentary, okay, Andrew?
Will do.
So Tom starts off with this this monologue about the government. He wants the government to encourage individual achievement.
Mm-hmm.
And then Bart accuses him of wanting to ruin everyone's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Jack jumps in and says, hey, you got to stop interrupting. And Bart says, well, I want to respond now or I'll forget what I said.
That's a mood.
And then Tom says, I believe in our rights as Americans, but our responsibility too, and consequences for what we do. And we can't keep looking to our government to bail us out.
Yeah. That's what Tom says? Or that's what Bart says?
That is what Tom says.
Yeah.
Because Bart's all about the big government, and Tom's about less government.
Of course, naturally.
Yes.
Then, how are those unemployment checks going? Everybody in quarantine. Big government. Terrible, right?
That is the same comment I wanted to make, so thank you.
Oh, sorry about that.
No. That wasn't sarcastic.
Okay.
Genuinely, I'm happy that you said it, because otherwise I feel like I'm just monologuing.
There you go. No, it's so, oh my lord. It's so frustrating. Like, obviously, dear Chalk Squad, I need to be vulnerable with you. I'm a registered Democrat. If you unsubscribe now, like, I'll understand.
You can also just support opinions that are different than you guys.
Exactly. That I would encourage that
valuable,
more than everything. More than anything, because there's a lot of Democratic policy that I don't agree with, but I also think that Odyssey is a really good example of how the media frames specific styles of government and how that propagates kind of dogma around it that's not exactly accurate and not exactly true. Like having Bart, an unintelligent person, represent big government is so not the point if that's what you're trying to argue against. Like, government, in my opinion, is just everybody throwing pencils at the ceiling to see which one sticks, and everybody's pencils are different, and if it sticks, great, and if it doesn't stick, then fine. But this kind of discourse that we create of just it's an us versus them, and this is objectively wrong because they want a larger government, is so not the whole picture. Like, I mean, we can hear that now and listen to it and think, yeah, okay, you can support, like, I don't think that we should have universal health care. I think it should be privatized, and, that's fine. And you can look at Europe and be like, oh, well, what they're doing is good or what they're doing is bad, and that's fine, and have a difference of opinion. But what this is doing is, instead of doing that, it's just basically saying, well, you can be right or you can be stupid.
Yes, that is very much the tone of this episode, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, it's exhausting, and it's not just because it's my side that that is being poorly represented. I would feel the same way if it was the other way around, where people that think that small government is Neanderthal-like or of the past and ineffective. Like, no, that's not the answer.
Yeah. This whole dichotomy that they're pitching in this episode is like, hey, the smart, reasonable thing is like, hey, we can't keep looking for the government to bail us out. And on the stupid other side, we have Bart saying that he wants to create a government program to get the government off people's backs.
Yep. He's like, I'll make a committee.
Such a not funny joke.
Yeah. Yeah, it's Bart's whole thing where he'll just say anything. Yep. And like is it exposed later when it's like, by saying that you stand for everything, you actually stand for nothing?
Yep. I think that's kind of like Tom's closing argument.
Yeah. It's ugh.
Yep. It's at this point that Bart then starts quoting song lyrics.
Yeah. Which is, pretty funny. I enjoyed it.
Kind of funny.
As one who deeply appreciates musical references in any and all form.
Yeah, no, that's fair. And then we have a really long back and forth that I have all down in quotes.
Oh, good heavens!
And I'm going to
just rattle it off. Just go.
Yep, basically. So this is Jack jumps in and says, Bart, we can't continue this debate unless you follow the rules. And Bart says, rules schmools. This is a free country. Anybody should be able to do what they want. That's the difference between me and Riley. I'm into freedom and he's what do you call it? An intolerant hate mongerer.
Yeah. Wow.
An intolerant hate mongerer.
Yep. That is the meme, the really old meme from Anchorman, where he's like, well, that escalated quickly. I'm just like, yep. Wow. I mean, wow, you really went for it there.
Uh-huh. Tom says, what? Bart says, did I stutter? Which is funny. I didn't realize that was a thing.
Do they
94.
Speak English in what?
Jack tries to calm everyone down. Brian tries to ramp everyone up. This is when things get great. So fun. Unlike you, this is Bart. Unlike you, Riley, I believe in toleration. As a mayor, I won't put up with anyone who isn't tolerant. You won't tolerate intolerance? Right. So you're intolerant of people who tolerate intolerance. Yeah, my first act as mayor will be to form a committee to investigate intolerance and stamp it out. But what about things like free speech? What about things like that? People can have free speech, as long as they agree with you. Well, yeah, no one likes disagreeable people.
At all Facebook conversations ever. That platform is so toxic. I've spent more time on it since quarantine, since I think I have in years, and not intentionally. It's just well, I check Twitter and then I check Facebook, and wow, there's so much of that where I'm just like, you are just saying things to make people mad, and then when they get mad, you get mad at them for being mad, and I don't get it. What itch is this scratching for you? Let me introduce to you to something called knitting. You can't post on Facebook while knitting. I mean, I suppose you could perhaps live stream yourself, but it'll take up a great amount of time. It's productive. You can make stuff for yourself, make stuff for other people, and it's incredibly relaxing. And most importantly, nobody hates knitting. Like, even people that don't enjoy doing it themselves, nobody's going to come down on you for knitting.
Yeah, that's true. Take up knitting.
And if they do, you can just wrap your homemade scarf around your head and not hear them.
Yeah. Yeah, so I'll put a link in the show notes to this. There's a really good webcomic from Pictoline that is just like a summary of something that the philosopher Karl Popper said about the paradox of tolerance, which is basically that, like, if you tolerate intolerance, like, then, like, it doesn't work to tolerate intolerance. Mm-hmm. Which is, I mean, it's literally called the paradox of tolerance, and it's this whole thing that I don't really want to, like, completely break down, but
you cannot be truly tolerant because it's basically like saying you cannot take any firm stand on anything, even something like tolerance, because by taking a stand, you stand for something, and therefore anybody against it, you are against, and therefore are not tolerant.
Right, but it's saying that that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, when we extend tolerance to those who are openly intolerant, the tolerant ones are destroyed, and then the tolerance is destroyed with them.
Interesting. Yeah, okay, I respect that. I definitely do. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So it just struck me as they're going back and forth, and Bart's, like, comically being like, well, I'm not going to put up with anyone who's intolerant.
Yeah.
And that's kind of being the butt of the joke. I'm like, well, there actually is something to that.
No, there definitely is.
Because if we tolerate all of the people in the world who are hateful and intolerant, the world is a worse place.
Exactly.
And it's not, the hard thing then is always, well, what is hateful and intolerant? And I'm not really going to jump in on that conversation at the moment.
Is there absolute truth?
Listen to the Truth Chronicles to find out.
Nope, not doing it. Nope. Soapbox going away.
All right. So that's that debate.
Yeah, we love that. Oh boy.
Yeah. It is every Facebook debate. It just gets completely flattened and all nuances lost.
Why does this episode feel like doing a group project, and just every new thing that you have to do, you just are so disappointed that you have to do it? And it's like, the thing that I thought you were going to do, wow, you didn't do that. That's cool. Oh, well, now I have to do this too. Oh, okay. Well, that's disappointing.
Yeah. It's kind of this point where I just got really fed up with this whole thing and was like, I get that this is a kid's show, but if they would actually debate actual things, I would really appreciate that.
Well, and I think that it would be so good for the kids to see, like I think that kids are more benefited by seeing government being effective than they are by bad-mouthing, certain styles of government.
Yes, but I think it would require them to portray both sides, and if they portray both sides with any sort of, and give the bad side any sort of relatability, or, like, nod to it in any way, they're going to come under fire from the listeners, because it's, well, hey, you're, like, showing our kids that they don't have to think the same way that we do.
That's awfully problematic.
Yeah.
Well, it's my turn to to quote some song lyrics, the times they are a-changin'. You know? The loser now will be later to win. The times they are a-changin'.
Anyways, so we leave that scene. No, we don't.
No, this is when Eugene and Sam bust
so
in.
yeah, we cut away briefly. I guess this is where Sam and Eugene actually escape, not the previous scene. And then we cut back to, so they're just going to race over to try and interrupt this debate.
Yeah.
And we cut back, and Tom says, in trying to stand for everything, it's clear you stand for nothing.
Yep. Which, that's fair.
And then Bart has his pivot point where he's like, well, all of this isn't working. I guess I'll just take down Tom for this whole Apple thing. So Bart brings up the whole Apple thing, and Tom responds with, show me the statistics. No one has complained. No one has been sick. To which Bart says they would if Glossman didn't close your farm.
That's not how that works.
And that hit a little close to home.
Yeah. Yeah. Only 100,000 deaths.
Oof.
We live in troubling times.
Yeah, I mean, literally in this episode, he's right. There hasn't been any evidence of the contamination other than the fact that the government tested it and said there was contamination, and also we need to believe scientists. So I appreciate you conducting your independent study. That is a good thing to do, but you don't know the results of that yet, and so you shouldn't be openly contentious against what the current experts are saying.
Thanks, Hank Green.
There's my soapbox.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah. So the debate then continues with Bart saying, you're killing this here planet and you ought to be ashamed of yourself. To which Tom replies, I am a farmer. My father ran a farm, and so did his father before him. I love the land, I don't worship it, but I do my part to take care of it.
Good guy Tom is good guy.
Amen to that.
Yeah, it's... It's just more of the same. Just Bart being bad.
Yep. Yeah. And then, although you're killing this planet and you ought to be ashamed of yourself, not necessarily a bad stance, but bad with the context.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Let's get that on record.
Yeah.
Tom then does this amazing pivot where he pushes back on Bart and is like, well, what about all your disposable products, Bart, that you sell? And Bart's like, well, people like my disposable products. And I'm like, oh no. Bart's now become big business?
Yep. Bart is everything.
But I thought that was the conservative stance.
Yep. No, Bart is everything and somehow nothing. It's oh my lord. It is bad. It's
truer words have never been spoken.
It's quite bad. And like that, and that's what makes this episode so confusing is like, okay, Odyssey, what is good in your eyes? Tom is good, yes. But if Tom was to contaminate the land, that would be bad. Yes. Okay. So when it comes to government, is Tom better than the big business companies that would take the place of big government? That, like, yeah, like if you're rooting against big government, then you're rooting for big business. And maybe that's too big of a jump to make between the two, but that seems to be the two arguments here.
Yeah. Yep.
Oh well. Continue.
Love it. So good. This is when Eugene and Sam barge in with the tapes, like every courtroom scene in Odyssey and also media in general. And I realize this isn't a courtroom scene per se, but also they decide Glossman stands up and is like, hey, I want that tape. And Eugene says, with all due respect, Mr. Glossman, we'd rather make 24 tapes and then give you the tape. And I was like, okay, Eugene?
Got him.
I guess so.
There's this bit in Scrubs where the head doctor butts heads with the chief of medicine, and he always goes, well, in more explicit words, blow it out your derriere. And I could have sworn that's what Tom was gonna say. It's like, just blow it out your derriere, Bart.
Yeah. Woo. And then we basically, they recess to view the tapes, and then we jump ahead.
Yep.
To is it a news report maybe where we find out that Ernest and Furter have been put on administrative leave. Glossman's being all indignant and being like, hey, I didn't know about any of this.
I'm just as much of a victim as anybody else here.
Yeah. And then Tom's reopening his farm.
Yep.
Bart steps down from the campaign.
And then Tom is just mayor.
Yep.
Like, no vote, no nothing. Just, well, you're mayor now. And me, as the person running against you, gets to bestow this honor. Not the people. That's not how democracy works.
Yep. Yeah. I
aggressive side.
Even if people are running unopposed, we still have elections.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's the whole point.
Yep. I don't like this weird glossing over of democracy.
Well, and it wouldn't have been that hard for it to be like, time jump, a week later, blah, blah, blah.
I mean, they've already time jumped.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yes.
they could have just been like, oh, well, the votes have been tallied and yada, yada, yada.
Right.
Like, it literally would have taken such a small amount of effort and awareness to make this not literally completely disregard democracy.
Yeah. Yep. And then we go out on a conversation between Philip Glossman and an unknown caller.
Yeah.
The old one-sided telephone call.
Telephone call. Dr. Blackgaard, that's who you are.
Hey, we don't know who it is, man.
That's true, but,
It's probably Blackgaard.
Yeah, this is the Blackgaard Chronicles.
Yeah, wild. And then Glossman turns to camera and has a villainous monologue.
Oh, yeah, he's like,
okay, Riley, you go ahead and move yourself into the mayor's office, but you don't have the slightest idea what you've gotten yourself into. You haven't seen The Last of Us, not by a long shot.
Dun, dun, dun.
Which I think is really funny, because Blackgaard, in Waylaid in the Windy City, ends with, laugh now, Whitaker, but I'm not finished with you, not by a long shot.
Perhaps foils are doing foiling things.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they're going to get foiled.
Ooh. Ooh. So that's the end of the episode. And I think, well, we actually have some pretty good discussion questions to get to, I think. Yeah, I'm just gonna shine my shoes and I'm just gonna dust off the old soapbox and
all right.
give the Good Chalk Squad my opinion on these discussion questions.
So Andrew, do you think Christians should run for public office?
Sure. Fine. Yeah.
Yup. All right. We're on the same page.
Yes. If we want to talk about the role that Christian morals should have in government, then, like, that's another thing. But as far as if you are a Christian, are you immediately disqualified from running for office? No, not a little bit. I mean, honestly, if you want to make the argument against it, that's fine. Christian anarchy is a thing. I mean, the whole idea of, basically what Jesus did was saying, yes, we have these institutions and governments in place that are important, but, I am Lord. I am above them. I am the King of Kings. I am the President of Presidents. And you don't pledge your allegiance to them. You pledge your allegiance to me. And where they come in conflict, you go with me. And that's about it. Like, if that's the question, then that's my answer. As far as Christian morals and politics, well, I mean, America was founded on the idea of religious freedom, and so in a certain respect, I think it's important to separate those ideals, especially when it comes to making decisions. But at the end of the day, how democracy works is that we elect the people that we want to represent us. And so if you don't like the way that people are handling things, you vote otherwise.
Yeah, that was all really well put. You forgot the part where morals don't exist without Christianity, but otherwise. You're good.
Oh yeah. I mean, come on. I mean, if we don't have Christian morals to base our government on, like, it's just the streets
everyone's just gonna kill each other.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm right there with you, Andrew. Really, you put that really well.
Thank you.
So the next question, what was wrong with the way Bart ran his campaign?
He is incompetent.
It was a joke.
That's why. It was a joke. He didn't even take it seriously. He literally bowed out because his opponent was able to actually run.
Right.
Like,
yep. Yeah.
Literally, his whole platform was, I'm not running against anybody because this guy's going to get dismantled.
Yep.
Which, actually, that does flesh out the character a little bit.
And now our final question. And it's a big one. Could Tom have done anything to avoid the scandal?
Not. Well, I mean, the scandal was kind of imposed upon him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, no. I mean, he could have done his due diligence and submitted to the authorities and done that instead of playing wit and being like, you know what? I am the law, and I do my own thing.
Yeah.
And then the law's like, oh, okay, cool.
I don't like this thing I don't like the way this question is phrased, or that it is included, because it is set up as though scandals are just villains trying to ruin good people.
Oh, boy.
Right? That's absolutely how that reads. Because
the
question is,
you're
could
right.
Tom have done anything to avoid the scandal? And then part B, why was Glossman so intent on ruining Tom? It's literally, hey, we should ignore scandals because they are just bad people trying to bring down good people.
Fake news.
Yep.
It is terrifying how relevant these topics are from literally, 22 years before the 2016 election?
Yeah.
What's math? 1964,
you were good.
6 plus 16, 22. Yeah, 22. Oh my heavens. And even now, that's still a thing where it's just okay, there are scandals that are intentionally meant to deface people, and that is rough. And I think so. Scandals expose truth, right?
Right.
Presuming that they are legitimate scandals. But the problem is not the scandal themselves. I mean, sometimes it is, but it's also how the people witnessing it respond to it.
Absolutely.
Okay, if we're gonna I mean, as Bill Cosby was the front runner for all of this, is what Odyssey is suggesting that that scandal was just meant to destroy him? And the truth of the matter is, I mean, kinda, yeah, but also, he did a terrible thing. And so, there are consequences for doing that terrible thing.
Yeah.
And you have to believe the victim.
Yep.
And then, if it's found out that the scandal was wrong, then that's fine. Then you just, be like, oops, sorry about that. Because that's a thing. That does happen. But also, is the alternative to just, let the bad people keep doing the bad people things?
No, but these are scandals being levied against good people, Andrew, and we know that.
Of course.
We can judge people's hearts based on their outward appearance, and we know that they would never do bad things. That's why, the Catholic Church has always been awesome.
Oh, we love the Catholic Church. Actually, no hate for the Catholic Church right now. Pope Francis is a G.
I was specifically referencing the
Reformation?
What? No, I was referencing the scandal.
Oh. What scandal?
Are you being a joke right now? Okay.
Yes.
Good. I was mildly concerned for a moment. So the big thing here is, if we look at Tom's actions in the episode, I think he actually went about things in a good way, which was charges were levied against him. He contested these charges and hired someone to investigate the other side of it. That seems like a pretty good way of handling it.
Yeah, that's basically just his equivalent of hiring a lawyer.
Right. Whereas, what this question in the discussion guide seems to be implying is Tom couldn't have done anything to avoid this scandal. So, even good people are going to get screwed by those who are malicious. And yeah.
And is the point of being a Christian so you don't get screwed by bad people?
Yeah.
Is that it?
Yeah, absolutely, Andrew. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Oh, boy. Oh, boy.
But yeah.
Oh, boy.
Yeah. It just left a really sour taste in my mouth of just being but the point is not, hey, completely disregard all scandals because the people who are bringing them forth don't have control over that. If Tom... Yeah, I don't know. It's just, we can't operate under... Odyssey is suggesting here that we operate under the assumption that everyone who is bringing forth a scandal and accusing someone is in the wrong. And that is a way more dangerous assumption to operate than everyone bringing forth a scandal is in the right. I think they both are dangerous and can be used maliciously, but I think it is way more advantageous to believe the accuser and
well, and that's the whole thing, because then Tom goes with the whole innocent until proven guilty bit.
Yeah.
But he doesn't apply the same logic to the people that are accusing him.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Right. Okay, Tom has a right to defend himself.
Right.
True. But what this question is suggesting is no, you just don't believe people if you are just intuitively smarter than them and know the truth. No, that's not how that works. I mean, nobody thought that, Bill Cosby was who he was. I mean, on the outwards, he was a clean comedian, and it turns out he was a clean comedian who also did terrible things.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I think that's how we go out. If you've got any final thoughts here.
I don't have any final thoughts. I have nothing to plug. I already plugged knitting.
Yeah. Andrew plugs knitting. I plug the Paradox of Tolerance comic that I'll link in the notes. Infographic, I guess, more than comic, but whatever. I liked last episode so much more than this one, and it kind of bums me out. It's not a bad episode, it's just loaded.
It's loaded, and it's also not loaded particularly well. Yes. I think that what was established last episode could have came to a much better fruition if Bart was a legitimate candidate.
Yeah.
And if the arguments that were being made were more intentionally thought out.
Yeah.
But, it is what it is, and obviously that's kind of the point of the show, is where we go back and we look at it and we pick up on things that we didn't really realize before. And I still love Odyssey, and I still actually quite enjoy this arc of episodes. It's just, it's different now.
Absolutely. So that's all we have for you this week. And we will be back next week with an episode I really hope holds up, because it's one of my favorites. A Name, Not a Number, Part 1.
Bye, guys.
I'm so excited. Goodbye.
Wadfam Chalk Pod is a presentation of the Lidditz Podcast Co-op. This show is a fan podcast and has no official affiliation with Adventures in Odyssey or Focus on the Family. As such, the copyright is ours under Creative Commons. Follow the podcast at wadfamchalkpod on Twitter and Instagram, or email us at wadfamchalkpod@gmail.com. Tom for Mayor, Part 1 was hosted by Dylan Weaver and Andrew Acebo, and edited by Dylan Weaver. And I'm Nathan Haverstick, hoping you'll join us again next time for more of the Wadfam Chalk Pod.